So yeah, going back to the Arctic, it's essentially it's warmer. It's been warmer, and the lack of sea ice has been an issue. But it's gonna get worse within like a year. You said. Here we go. Next year.
The reports I'm seeing
Okay.
indicate, well, based on the modeling, of course, but also looking at direct observations, is that we're going to probably see the first blue ocean event next year. And by that means there'll be zero sea ice, zero in the entire Arctic Ocean. It used to be that, oh, ice free would mean, well, you still have some ice, but it's kind of concentrated around 85 degrees north to the pole, and you still have like about 1 million square kilometers. Now they're saying zippo ice, gone. And that would be for like a couple of months of the year, like, like July, August kind of stuff. And then they're talking
Wow.
blue ocean event +2, +5, +10, where that first is 2 months of the year, then 4 months of the year, 8 months of the year. And they're now projecting that by the mid 2030s, the Arctic Ocean will be ice free year round in perpetuity.
Which obviously collapses the ecosystem. I don't know how
Yes.
else to say that. That's
Yeah, it does.
so wow. Uh yeah, so here we are another
Because
year, Jim, 2021. I mean, what has changed, right? It's gonna get better, right? No. No.
to go back to your point about the ecosystem collapsing, yeah, you're absolutely correct. And here's why. When you have the sea ice, you have productivity that's occurring on the underside of the ice algae. That that drives the whole web system. Then as the ice melts back in the spring and summertime, you get the little pool of fresh water. So you get a little bit of stratification, and you get certain phytoplankton that do well in that situation. So you get productivity from that group. Then as you kind of finish off the melting, the sun is higher in the sky, and now the energy is sufficient to activate the more oceanic phytoplankton, the diatoms and so forth, so that they do their productivity.
Right.
So if you lose the ice, you're going to lose the productivity from the algae and from the what we call the ice edge productivity effects. It's not like, okay, you lose those two, then the more oceanic uh, phytoplankton do the thing. The sun isn't at a high enough level so that the energy can activate the chlorophyll within, the, the chloroplast within the diatoms. So the net result is that you have a massive decrease in primary productivity, which means a decrease in secondary and tertiary productivity. So yeah, it's
Possible
going to really
extinction.
mess up. Yes, that's very possible.
All within a lifetime. I mean, it just seems so dramatic. I mean, it's these are like magnifying statements that are just
As
huge. Go ahead. Yeah.
I don't know if you saw the graphic I sent to you from Zach,
Sure, we can talk about
showing
that.
the warming.
That
I
connects.
mean,
Yeah, I saw it. It's from Zach Lave. It says temperature anomalies by latitude band over the last 3 months. Check out the Arctic. Plot shows zonal mean surface air temperature anomalies where latitude equals x-axis, not scaled by distance. So it shows October through December 2020 and what's going on. I'll let you take it away. So what's going on with this graphic?
well, first of all, if you notice, the entire planet is warmer than average. That's the
Right.
first thing to take away from it, because it's all in the red. Now, you've got the equator and you got the couple little dashed lines off to the edge there. Those are to the left, the Antarctic Circle, and then to the right, the Arctic Circle. What do you see when you get towards the high latitudes in the Northern Hemisphere up to the pole? It takes off
Mhm.
because the Arctic is warming. Now, it's now 3 times faster than the
Three
rest of the
times.
planet. Some people even saying 4 times.
Oh my
and
God.
and you can clearly see that. And the zone was basically doing it by bands of certain latitudinal widths, like 5 degree widths and that kind of stuff. And you can clearly see how the planet has warmed up overall, and the Arctic especially has warmed up overall. And as the Finnish prime minister said to now former President Trump, he said,
We're gonna do that. Yeah. Go ahead.
if you lose the Arctic, if you lose the Arctic sea ice, you lose the planet.
Wow.
You're seeing it here. And this graph is just, it's an in your face. And when the Arctic warms up, it's going to disrupt, as we've discussed before, the jet stream, so you get more meridional
Right.
flow and so forth. And it's I at this point, it's well beyond tipping point. I think we've gone very far over the tipping point, and it's kind of like, holy crap, hang on to your pants because we don't know what's going to happen. It's
There-
going to get worse and worse. And by the way, have you been hearing what Michael Mann has been saying lately?
No, what has he been saying? Michael Mann, yeah, what's he saying? It seems bad,
Oh my
Jim.
word.
It seems-
I guess he's wrote,
Go ahead. It seems bad.
he's got this new book out.
Okay.
And for me personally, it's a bit dismaying because I mean, I respect the guy, but now he's saying, oh, we have these new models that if we go to zero emissions, we can stop the warming at no more than we'll be fine. Well, first of all, while going to zero emissions is a laudable goal, it's not realistic.
Right.
It's just not going to happen. Certainly not within 20 years. And also, look at what's already happening with the 1.5 degrees C increase. What do you think 2C is going to bring as far as extreme weather events? And by the way, some scientists basically say that a warming of 4 degrees C will cause human extinction. And what did we talk about earlier?
Good
You
God.
know, lessons from the early Eocene that we can hit 7 to 9, maybe 10, 11 by 2100.
Yeah, it's
Good
exponential.
grief. And here's the other thing. So Michael Mann, in saying that, he's totally ignoring thermal inertia. In fact, he even called us, well, people saying,
That's
well,
what it is. Yeah,
there's
thermal
too much
inertia.
thermal inertia, so it's too late to do anything. It's just like, that's physics, Michael. You should know better. You're an atmospheric scientist.
He has
You
hope
understand and know
still.
physics.
Yeah.
And yeah, and then he called us out as being a bunch of doomers. It's like, dude, it's reality.
I know. I
So I
know
was
it is.
extremely disappointed to see that.
Okay. Yeah, I haven't heard much on that, and now I have, but it does seem a little like he wants to believe now. Maybe it has to do with the new time frame we're in, right? The Biden era, but like the hope, we're dealing with a lot. I don't think a change of administration. Well, it'll help. We can get into that later, but we still, like you said, the thermal inertia. It's locked in. The climate tipping points have been passed. Hold on to your butts. That's what it is. What's happened has happened, and this is the consequence.
It is.
We saw that it was zero.
I mean,
The
when you think
lockdowns.
back,
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry, there's too much going on.
it's, that's right. We did an experiment. We had lockdown. We had no planes. People were driving less, and there was a measured decrease in CO2 emissions. No
Mm-hmm.
doubt about that. Temperatures still continue to increase.
Absolutely, and
Yeah,
that's the thermal
because
inertia.
of the heat trapping ability, the thermal inertia. I mean, just look at how much has changed over the last 20 years, the last 10 years. Hell, the last 2 years, so much has changed.
Oh
And
my
it's all
God.
part of this exponentiation. I mean, take me for example. I used to be of the opinion that if you throw a whole bunch of, that as you melt in the Greenland ice sheets due to global warming, you're putting all that fresh water into North Atlantic. I was of the opinion that that's going to tip things into a cooling down, into an ice age, because we have data that tells us this has happened before in the past. You
Yeah.
shut down AMOC and the conveyor belt, which is a heat distribution mechanism, the planet cools down. I no longer hold that opinion.
Oh,
That even
wow.
if you throw in all, I no longer hold that opinion, because even with all Greenland melting, and then you just have Antarctic melting, the oceans have absorbed so much heat energy, something on
Okay.
the order of 2 times 10 to the 23 joules over the first 1,000 meters, that AMOC is shut down, but there's so much latent heat energy in the oceans that will be continued to be given off, that will keep the planet warm. So I no longer hold the opinion that all this melting will tip us in a cooler regime. It's going to keep things warm.
Okay. Wow. I'm in shock. Because, yeah, that means things are even worse.
Yes.
Just
And
for the
here's the other
fact.
thing. We're
Go ahead. Wow. I'm in shock, Jim. Go ahead.
the conveyor
Yeah.
belt, as the thermohaline circulation, as that water sinks, it's bringing down with it CO2 and heat, so it's sequestering it. Well, if you start stratifying the ocean layers and you shut down the thermohaline circulation, you're no longer sequestering that heat. So that's another reason
Oh.
why that heat stays in the upper layers to be given off. You continue to warm up the ocean waters, the heat stays there, but eventually, because as you increase water temperature, gas solubility decreases. Eventually, CO2 is going to outgas back into the atmosphere, further increasing the CO2 levels in the atmosphere. And this is a point, Michael Mann was basically saying, well, the oceans will continue to absorb the CO2. No, not correct. It's going to stratify, and it's going to reach saturation and then start outgassing, which will further exacerbate the warming. So yeah,
That's a horror
I've,
movie. Oh, God.
new data's come in. I've reassessed my position, my assessment on it.
So the oceans are the key. Because there is so
Yes,
much warming, it's its own production of warming. And the idea is, the natural cycle of an ice age coming, right? 10,000, maybe 100,000 years. We don't know, right? But supposedly we're going deeper into what you said, a colder ice age than maybe even the ice age, before our time. Um, that no longer could be valid because of how much, like, taking in all the factors of the warming, the tipping point angle, that no longer is valid, kind of thing. I mean, it's shocking.
it's all the heat energy, and
Okay, I'm
it's looking
processing.
at latent heat energy, the fact that the heat stays on the surface is so much of it. The oceans have absorbed so much heat energy.
Okay.
Once I came across the
Damn.
paper that and the graphics showing how much heat energy the oceans have absorbed, actually quantifying it, I then said, "Uh-oh, this is a game changer," and
Oh
this
my
has definitely changed my opinion of
God. Game
how things
changer.
operate. And and so that
Mm.
I'm now saying that even AMOC, a conveyor belt totally shutting down, is not going to change the direction of heading towards a hot Earth.